expand your mind, and enrich your world. It's time for another outstanding podcast from ICRT.
Hello and welcome to another podcast edition of Taiwan Talk. I'm Keith Menconi. Today on the show, we'll be taking a trip to Colorwolf Studios, a Taipei-based studio and art collective that provides workspace for about a dozen foreign and local artists and also hosts events that bring Taiwan's artistic community together. I recently spoke with the group's director, American expat Patty Hogan, to learn a little bit about Taiwan's arts community and what the studio is doing to support their work. Here's our conversation. Patty Hogan, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
So you've actually lived in Korea before you came to Taiwan, so you have a little bit of experience in another expat community. And so I'm curious, when you came to Taiwan, what is it that you saw here that motivated you and made you think, oh, this, some kind of artist collective, some place where people could come together and share their art with one another. What is it that you saw that made you think that this would be something that would be useful for Taipei and Taiwan?
Well, I kept meeting really amazing people throughout the Taipei community and figured out quickly that they didn't all know each other. And that baffled me because we should all know each other and work together to make sure that the community knows us and what we're doing and communicate even better through creative ventures like art and writing and music and other things.
So basically it's just lots of creative people and giving them an opportunity to kind of share what they have with one another.
Right, and connecting those people throughout our community through the Colorwolf community itself. So we can branch out together and we can pull people together. I like to match people up.
And since you've started this whole collective, what have you seen come out of this? Like, what have you seen as artists have had this opportunity to work with one another?
Well, I've seen them grow within their arts and within the community with having the support of other people and being able to have a collective voice behind them to push them further into the community and really become more involved in what's going on in Taipei.
Oh, okay. So what do you mean by that? What do you mean by artists becoming more involved in the community?
Well, I found that a lot of the artists that I was meeting and bringing into the Colorwolf community were typically working out of their house by themselves, not having a lot of exhibitions and a lot of motivation to pull their art out of their house and into the community and communicate with everyone here with that venture. But since we started Colorwolf, it's grown into an external project. So people are now bringing their art outside and bringing it to Colorwolf Studio or making work here. And then together we're taking it to different galleries and different shows and really showing the voice of particularly the expats in our community to the Taiwan community.
So on the one hand, it seems like there has been maybe more exposure, more kind of back and forth. Do you think that there's also, this has sparked more creativity in any way? Has this enabled more kind of art than there would have been?
I definitely think so. A lot of the artists that I've met weren't, or maybe even they stopped making art for a long time. And since we've come in with such a passion and drive for creators, writers, musicians, visual artists, everybody, we push them and motivate them to do what they love. You don't just have to come here and do what you're paid for. You can also do all those amazing things that you do back home. And you can communicate with your community, even if you don't speak the language, with your artwork.
But the space that you have here, it isn't necessarily just for foreigners, right? You also have some Taiwanese artists working here?
Definitely. We've had 3 or 4 different Taiwanese artists, and a lot of our friends and Colorwolf family have been and still are Taiwanese people.
And have you seen any examples of maybe some collaboration between the foreign and the local artists?
Definitely. Everybody approaches art differently, and your schooling and everything behind it is a huge component as to how you make things. So all of the foreigners that we have come from different areas, and the Taiwanese community itself, the educational system and how they learn how to make art is different. So when we watch each other work and we talk about all of our methodologies and what we pull from, we can grow and learn together. So it's been really interesting hearing, some of our Taiwanese friends come to the studio and saying, oh gosh, some of this artwork is really gross. And you go to my studio and it's all sweet and beautiful. And it kind of being like, well, it doesn't always have to be sweet and beautiful. We can do things differently. That was probably one of my favorite times that we had some Taiwanese friend and artists here.
Do you feel like can you think of any times where maybe you took something away from that interaction and incorporated it in your work?
Yeah, I think so. Even when it's, maybe not a conscious effort, it comes through, where you start thinking, oh gosh, how can I really be effectual in this community by communicating through my visual artwork? And how do I push myself to become part of the community visually? And it has changed quite a bit. I know that some of our artists also include Chinese text and a lot of the experiences that they have here in Taipei into their artwork, and it's really pretty beautiful how the interactions can become these visual soliloquies, I guess.
Now, you don't just have visual artists. Can you talk a little bit about the kinds of artists that are working here?
Yeah, so we have, at the moment, it's 6 visual artists and 3 writers. And the writers, so one's Taiwanese, and then the other 2 are, one's British and one's American. And they talk a lot about life in Taipei through their writing and everything. So Goat Magazine here at Colorwolf is all about Taiwan and living in Taiwan from a first-person perspective and whatever they stumble upon. So it's usually a little more off the beaten path and what they find through sometimes first time looking at things, sometimes revisiting things from their past, like growing up in Taiwan and how much it's changed since then to where it is now, and processing it through new eyes and through, most of it's all in English as well, so processing it through another language. It's really beautiful.
So kind of looking at the art scene in Taipei and Taiwan a little bit more broadly, what are your thoughts on what artists really need to be successful? I mean, obviously, a space that's affordable and that they can go to and, have their own space to work. Obviously, that's important. But what else do you think that an arts community needs to be successful in a city?
Mm-hmm. I think an arts community needs drive and passion and support. So if you are passionate but you don't have support, it's hard to pull yourself out and motivate yourself to really put yourself out there for galleries and different avenues to show. Also, as an artist, it's hard to network with everybody. So if you have 6 other artists working with you to talk to galleries and to talk to other avenues to get your work out there, it becomes a lot easier. I think it's really important to have a community to push what you're doing further and just make everything a lot stronger and better.
So you see the role of this studio as kind of pushing people to almost take it more seriously in a way, and then giving them that opportunity to have those avenues where they can actually make their stuff more public. Definitely.
We also bring, since we're all networking and meeting a lot of gallery owners and exhibition spaces, we encourage the heads of those places to come and visit our studio. So even if the artist isn't here and a gallery sees their work and says, oh my gosh, this is perfect, we have so many collectors interested, it becomes this immediate drive to do more. Or even if it's just feedback on what you should be working on when you're creating your things, when it's coming from a gallery owner itself or someone that could take it to the community for exhibition and sales and other things, it really makes you be more professional and push yourself further.
So you've already kind of talked a little bit about how you kind of noticed that maybe there weren't enough opportunities for artists to get in touch with one another, to be aware of each other's works. Would you say that there's any other challenges for artists trying to do their thing in Taiwan? So
in a city, it's always difficult to be able to network and meet people. And then when you have that other division of language and cultural experience and even just expectations on how to do business in another country, and if you have a space and a community behind you to bounce ideas and motivation off you on how you should be approaching the situation, what kind of conduct you need to do as a business, basically a business venture here in Taiwan or any city, especially a foreign city, it's really important to have someone to help you understand what that culture is expecting from you.
And do you think that your studio plays a role in helping people through that?
I think so. We have a lot of meetings talking about how to approach different galleries, how to talk about your work when we have people come and see your work. And I think it's a really important way for the community to understand what's happening here and what your artwork is doing. And it's difficult in any city, so especially a foreign one.
So we've talked a lot about what artists need, but it seems like what you also have a lot in mind is how artists kind of support community and enrich, the broader society. Can you talk a little bit about that? How do you see the artists that are taking part in your studio? How do you see them enriching the broader society?
I think that visual arts, arts in general, a really basic way and important way for communication from person to person. And I feel that community is extremely important. So communication on all levels within that community is only going to make that community stronger. So being able to motivate visual artists, writers, and any other sort of creators that we come across to be able to express themselves and talk about what they're thinking and what they're creating is only going to enrich any community that they're involved in. And being part of the Taipei community particularly is amazing because there are so many Taiwanese artists already making incredible artwork and music and writing, but by being able to add to it and add discussion of the global perspective of it all is, I think, a really important aspect to Taiwan being a global center for arts and creation and I think the future of Taiwan. Could
you talk about any specifics in terms of how that's you've observed that playing out specifically in Taiwan?
We did a show last July with a gallery in Nehu that was working with businesses in the Taiwan community and taking their waste products and then working with, it was our studio members, and then we also incorporated, I think it was 11 more artists on top of that to work with these waste materials from Taiwan companies and factories, and then make artwork and discuss how all of the waste products that are just being thrown in the dump and doing all these other horrible things to the environment can be reused and repurposed into communication through art and appreciation of culture and all of the production and future of Taiwan, which is relying on the production and other factory work, I guess, here in Taiwan.
So it's kind of socially aware art.
Yeah, very socially aware.
I think that Taiwan is an appealing place to live to a lot of people, just because of you can have your teaching job and you can have reasonably inexpensive housing and you can kind of support the whole economic side of your life and then still have enough time to do the thing that you're passionate about and take that really seriously as well. I meet a lot of people that are kind of like that's their model, that's what they're doing. How do you think that Colorwolf kind of contributes to that and makes that something that's empowers somebody who's interested in having that kind of having that passion in their life and following that in Taiwan?
I think that it's a really great place to visit to show that all of these other people are also motivated to do all these creative projects, even though they're working all day and maybe don't feel as comfortable and as in their skin as they were back home, particularly. And so when they come here, they see a slice of home in a lot of ways. So they're like, oh, wow, I can do all the stuff I was doing back home here, and I can pull it out in the community, and there is a place, and there are these people, and it doesn't have to be, a huge production. It doesn't have to be a huge investment, and it just pushes people to actually do their passions, which is really nice.
So if there was somebody out there that was kind of listening to this and they were kind of on the fence about whether or not Taiwan was the place for them to go and try to follow their passion, what would you say to that person? Do you think you could sell that person on this being a good place to do that?
Well, I can say that before I moved here, my husband and I did a lot of research as to what countries we wanted to move to. Asia in particular. It's the future. This is the Asian century, which is exciting. So we wanted to move back to Asia, and we were looking at arts funding and arts appreciation, and Taiwan actually spends more per capita than any other country in Asia. So I think that's a really basic and important way to look at how important the arts and culture in Taiwan are supported.
So basically you're saying that the government and society in general take it pretty seriously, and there's a lot of support out there.
Yeah, definitely.
So one thing that occurs to me is that, in the U.S. there's already all these really structured institutions and organizations, and if you're going to do anything, you kind of have to go through that process. But here in Taiwan, there's not necessarily as many expectations that you have to adhere to, and so I'm wondering if that impacts the kind of art that you see happening here. Do you feel like in some ways that kind of frees people up to kind of just do whatever they're passionate about? What kind of effect do you see that having?
I'd say for the foreign community, it's a really freeing thing working outside of your own community. I think you can just push aside any sort of cultural expectations that you maybe previously had, or some sort of prejudgment of what the system is already doing, what sort of well-established kind of free spaces are producing. Here we can just forget all of that and do exactly whatever we want, and hopefully have people behind us. But yeah, I think it's freeing. I think it's also particularly freeing not understanding Mandarin as one reason that I like living where I don't understand the language, so that I don't know, I just get out of my head. And so not understanding the culture completely and seeing everything anew is so freeing and so wonderful. So I think as a foreigner, it's definitely a more freeing space to create.
For somebody that isn't necessarily going to rent studio space or something like that, what kind of events do you have that they could maybe get more involved in?
So this year we're really pushing forward to have a lot more events. So once a month, every last Sunday of the month, we're planning to do kind of an art salon. So we'll be featuring a studio member every month for about 2 months, and then we'll have kind of an open salon. So artists, writers, and musicians can come and maybe do a reading or play some music or show their work and talk about their methodologies and thought processes. And we invite the community to come check that out every last Sunday of the month. And then there's also going to be more studio parties, which is just kind of an open house. Just come, meet people, hang out. Everyone's amazing. Let's just have fun together and hopefully collaborate from there. And that'll be every 6 months. So I think the next one's in August.
So this studio, this whole project, it's been around for a couple of years now. You guys have brought together a lot of artists already. But what would you say would be your broader vision? Like, where do you want to see this go, and what kind of impact are you hoping it's going to have on the community here?
Well, I think about spaces like this that I visited in Chicago and Baltimore and other places that kind of are thriving in the arts on a really basic community level. And I would love to have Colorwolf Studio kind of branch into that, where maybe it's not in this space, maybe we'll get a larger space down the road and be able to throw, have musicians in and have more interdisciplinary creation and be able to invite the community in all the time and have it just as a creative hub within the Taipei arena itself.
Patty Hogan is the director of Colorwolf. Patty, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
That's it for the show today. As always, we'd love to hear what you thought of the program. You can leave us a comment on our Facebook page or rate and review Taiwan Talk on iTunes. You can also leave a comment on the ICRT blog, where we've posted a link to Colorwolf's website. Thanks for listening. For Taiwan Talk, I'm Keith Menconi.